in the jackal world, if you're using an NVC frame, or in the world of hierarchy, domination, and control, also known as the jackal world, Marshall Rosenberg used to talk about the 4 Ds of disconnection. Okay? So you'll hear 4 kinds of language that make disconnecting from yourself and other people far more likely. We see a lot more diagnosis. We see deserve language. We see a lot of demands. And we see a lot of denial of responsibility. Okay? So I'm going to talk about these briefly. We could spend an entire day on any one of these, but I'm going to do a very, very high level. I have a doctoral degree in diagnosis, by the way, so I'm really, really good at telling you what you are, right? You give me a list of observable behaviors, and then I'll let you know what label you now are. The problem with diagnosis, while it is a strategy that can meet some needs for clarity, for shortcutting, a very complex set of human interactions, and there is always a light side to any of these. The dark side of diagnosis is that it encourages us to see one another through labels. And when we begin seeing one another through labels, we've reduced the other person's humanity just a little bit, and we begin interacting with them as if the label is true about them. And what ends up happening a lot of the time is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By seeing somebody through the label, let's use a very generic one. If I see you as selfish, that's my diagnosis of you. The thing that's wrong with you is that you're selfish. If I begin interacting with you and I'm seeing you through the filter of the label of selfish, the way in which I'm interacting with you is likely to pull from you behaviors that will seem selfish. Is that making sense to people? Because I'm going to already be interacting with you in ways that are not as trusting, that make me feel like I've got to advocate a little bit more for me. And the more I'm doing that, the more you're going to react by doing the same thing and feeling like, oh, you need to advocate for you. And then I'm going to be like, you see how selfish you are? Okay. So the problem with interacting with people through our labels is that it can be limiting and it can be dehumanizing. Not that there aren't valid and good reasons why we need some of this. It's very helpful sometimes if I have a whole lot of things going on and I go to a psychologist or a doctor and they say, oh, this is what it is. That can give me a lot of information for clarity and a way forward to change something that's causing me distress. So there is a good side. However, we want to be aware of the diagnoses we're using, and we want to understand that every time we're using them unconsciously, we're less likely to connect with the other human being. So when I'm working with couples and somebody comes in and says, well, the problem is that my husband is an asshole, then that's really where we need to begin. Because the more you see him as an asshole and the more you believe this thing, the more you're going to keep recreating that. So the first step is re-humanizing people, which is what we're going to talk about, why nonviolent communication is such a powerful tool for the re-humanizing piece.